Yeah. I think I copied the right Gundacker on it. See? Somebody else out there is going to be very confused.
I think I've got a monopoly on the Gundacker name here online.
I gotta say, I don't think I've ever met another one.
Yeah, ironically, there was a Vine star who's now a TikTok star that he's my cousin, but he uses his full name, Gabriel Gundacker. So.
Oh, no kidding.
Stay away from just the name, bro.
Good morning, Awesemo MLB fans. How you guys doing? Welcome to the MLB Strategy Show for Friday. We've got a huge slate on deck, 14-gamer. It's going to be a lot to talk through. We're going to try and get through it as best we can. I'm Terry McBride. I think you guys know me by now. We've got our pal Gundacker here. He's going to take us through all the expert analysis. I'm going to fire some questions at him, do a little hosting role today. And yeah, we're going to dive into this thing. We're going to get started pretty quick because we got so much to talk about. We don't have a ton to plug today either, which I know you guys out there like. So that's pretty good. But you're getting into the strategy show this morning. But imagine, say that you had a meeting, say that you were off, I don't know, getting vaccinated or something, and you just missed the show. You couldn't catch it. We put all this stuff up on your favorite podcast networks now, guys. So jump on your favorite podcast network later on when you get home. You can download the show. You can listen. You can catch up to everything. Or say you're listening to the end of the basketball show. Those guys have a bunch of games still to talk about. They're going to be on till like noon. So maybe people are missing this. They could catch up with this show by downloading it off the podcast network. When you get in there, leave a 5-star review. We're giving away a free week of Awesemo Plus every single week to people who leave us 5-star reviews. Your review is good for up to a year to win that. So jump in there, download it, 5-star review, really helps us out. You get all the awesome content. We've got free MLB player rankings at the site today, free NBA ownership rankings, NHL projections, MMA fighter projections, all kinds of free content at the site today. Like, subscribe, check out the free stuff. Gun, how you doing, man?
Good morning. I still got sleep in my eye. This is not my usual hour of the day, but I'll get up at the crack of dawn to talk some baseball any day.
Yeah, right. One of the better things to have to wake up for. That's not ever so bad. But yeah, we appreciate you rolling your bones out of bed a little bit early and joining us, man, and getting lined up, hopefully caffeinated enough. You a coffee guy?
I'm a bang guy.
Right on. Little product placement. Love it. Yeah, I've been drinking coffee for the last couple hours, getting my sheet all fired up here. 14 games takes me a lot to get this sheet all locked and loaded, this Frankenstein of a sheet I've got. But we got a lot to talk through. Anything jumping out at you, Gun, off the top here you kind of want to dig into before we get into like game by game, any weather spots, anything like that really stick out?
I would say the first thing that jumped out is it's a massive slate, and there's not like a pitcher that says, "Hey, I'm the guy so far." Like there's like it looks like a bunch of day 3 quality type of guys, and that could create for a wild Friday night.
Yeah, it's going to be a really interesting pitching slate. That was one that jumped out to me too, man. I was looking at it, and I mean, just taking a look at our top pitchers board, I'll give the top guy away for free just because I think it's interesting. Trevor Rogers is our top-ranked pitcher today. If you had told me before the season that was going to be the case this early on in the season, I would have been shocked. I mean, and it's not like we've got a ton of luminaries on this board, but Blake Snell's on the board. Jack Flaherty's on the board. I mean, we've got some good pitchers. But, yeah, there's a lot of 3 and 4 type starters in here, and you get a name like that up at the top of the board. Bit of a surprise, so it's really interesting. Any spots that you're favoring pitcher-wise, we'll get into it, and I'm sure we'll hit them game by game, but any spots that really stick out to you more than others in terms of the pitchers that you were talking about there?
Nah, yeah, I mean, you mentioned Trevor Rogers. He's going to look really good for us, and I think on the day he was one of the more reasonably priced with some upside type of play. Jack Flaherty will probably trend up there as well. Erod at Baltimore sticks at me. Blake Snell, I will have to get into that discussion later because I don't know what to think pitch count wise and matchup wise. So I like it. Blake Snell might be the top household name on the board, but I don't even know if like that's somebody I want to invest in today, but we'll see.
Yeah, and a little bit of a tricky spot there, so definitely we'll get into it. But we got to start at the top, I think. So we've got first up on deck, we've got the Red Sox with Eduardo Rodriguez, like you mentioned, on the hill. at the Orioles with the corpse of Matt Harvey on the hill. Although he's shown signs of life, there might be a little bit of a heartbeat in that corpse. Throwing 96 the other day against our Yankees, had a decent start. The numbers are still a little bit bumpy, but maybe, just maybe, there's a little bit left in there. I'm not saying I want to play him. I'm not saying I don't want to throw bats at him, but maybe. Boston's got a 4.7 in implied total. Baltimore's got a 3.8. What are you liking in this one, Gunn? You mentioned Eduardo Rodriguez. Is that a spot for you going up against these O's? And if so, why?
Yeah, I'll probably get to a little bit of Erod. Looks like he's been more on the unlucky side. I do want to preface this. Those of you that are watching, maybe taking some notes, jot down an asterisk. This could be one of the rain games. We got a couple of those on the slate. Just kind of come back later. We're not going to play Weatherman. We'll just do the baseball analysis. But it looks like this could have some rain implications. But yeah, Erod, a 2.99 Sierra, 2.8 xFIP. But the ERA over 4. So he's getting a little bit unlucky. 11.5% swing and strike rate, right on par for his career average. And I think the most incredible stat so far for Erod, I got just a 2.7% walk rate, and that's really low. So maybe that's going to regress a little bit, but the metrics really kind of point me as him potentially having a solid day. Past that, if we do get some weather concerns, it's still Camden Yards. It's going to be a park that sways more towards the hitter. So it's not like a lock and load. This is my guy and no one else. But I can't see myself not having some exposure to Erod, and he'd probably be one of the top 4, top 5 exposure guys for me. And as far as the stack goes, Red Sox have been pretty good to me as a stack so far this year. I remember in the last 2 seasons, Red Sox always let me down, but I feel like so far this year they've been pretty good for me. On the Orioles side, because of my interest in Erod, I'm probably not going to fire up a full-on slot of Orioles, but if I wanted to one-off a couple guys, I think Trey Mancini will probably be in a plus spot opportunity-wise, probably top 3 in the order. And maybe Pat Valaika, bare bones min on Fanduel. I think he got into one yesterday. He projects decently against lefties, but that's pure chip in a chair. And on a slate this big, we're going to have a lot of really good value options at the bat side. But yeah, give me the Red Sox stacks. Give me some Erod exposure.
Yeah, that's an interesting one on Valaika there. Yeah, $2,000 dead minimum, flexibility at the middle, both middle infield spots. I don't hate that. That's an interesting call. There's a few spots in that Orioles lineup that I would be willing to get to. Austin Hayes, I like. Trey Mancini, you mentioned. Michael Franco in this matchup. Brian Mountcastle in this matchup. I'm more on the Erod side, I think. I totally agree with you. I love the control numbers. 2.7 walks. That's not him, but if that guy continues, this is going to be a dynamite pitcher all year long. And I think the price is great. 8,700 on FanDuel is a really nice price for him in this spot. The Orioles have been okay. They've been a little bit frisky in terms of producing runs against lefties so far this year. 8% above average with a 108 WRC plus. Only a 153 team ISO, 24.2% strikeout rate puts them like around the middle of the league. So I agree. Could be a nice start. I think we're probably in agreement. No shares of Matt Harvey here for you.
No, none whatsoever.
Yeah, I didn't think so. Same here. Even though, like I said, maybe there's a little heartbeat in there. It's definitely not one that I want to put in my lineup. Looking at the Red Sox roster real quick and the projected lineup, I can get to this thing from, at least Alex Verdugo hitting second with all the big bats in the middle down through, I've talked about a bunch of times recently, Bobby Dalbec, Hunter Renfroe, and Franchi Cordero at the bottom of this lineup. That is titanic power for the last 3 hitters in the lineup. They're probably not all going to produce in the same game where one's getting on via walk, another one doubles first and third, and then a guy hits a home run. These are more swing and miss types where one of these guys might hit a home run or 2 home runs, but it's not like you can really, they're difficult to stack. They make better individual end caps to the middle of the lineup, in my opinion, rather than putting those 3 guys together. Is that something you like to get to, those last 3 hitters there? And do you have a favorite?
Yeah, I definitely I agree with the sentiment there. I think they're kind of sneaky for power. I think Cordero came in for was it Kike Hernandez yesterday? And he put up like 14 DKP off the bench, and I had a whole lot of Kike, and I was like, that should be Kike. But it's it's good to see. But yeah, Matt Harvey, definitely somebody that I want to pick on, and there's not I don't think there's going to be a single Red Sox player that I unselect from my Opto.
Yeah, for sure. That's going to be firing away early and often with the Red Sox stacks, and I think Harvey's going to be a pitcher we'll continue attacking until he proves us wrong. So I think that's our time for the first game there. We got to hustle through these things, man. Nationals with Patrick Corbin on the hill, taking on our Yanks in the Bronx with Jamison Taillon. Yanks favored 5.21 implied total with a 3.89 for the Nationals coming in. What are you seeing in this one, Gun?
So the first thing I want to point out is that the Nats NL team coming into the AL Park, they're going to pick up the DH, so they don't have to send the pitcher in the 9 spot, which is going to beef up their lineup. Can't make it worse. So we should see Juan Soto in the lineup. I do have a pretty weak Nats team outside of Josh Bell, Soto, and Trey Turner in terms of average to righties and really power to righties outside of like a Kyle Schwarber. Taillon's just been kind of hit or miss so far. I don't want to overreact to the start against the Tigers because it's the Tigers and it seemed like a good get right spot for everybody. And even in that game, his xFIP was 3.8. So I don't know whether or not I want to trust Taillon a whole lot just yet, but the swing and strike rate is nearly 13%. The Sierra is a little bit lower than the xFIP. That makes me a little bit curious, but the ground ball rate pretty low, allows a lot of fly balls, and that could be a problem going against guys like Juan Soto. So I might have to really meditate on what I want to do with Taillon throughout the day. I think at 8-3, I'm looking for probably 16 to 20 fantasy points from a SP2 spot to kind of fire that up. And this is not really a lineup Nats-wise that has a ton of high strikeout guys, a lot of 20% or lessers outside of Schwarber, Yan Gomes, Victor Robles. So I'm probably going to allow myself not to get to neither one of these pitchers. It is very weird seeing Patrick Corbin at 6.6K. Like, this was a guy that, was one of the hottest free agent pitchers that even the Yankees were looking at 2 seasons ago. So if you believe in progression for him, maybe that's a really reduced price going against the Yankees team that will strike out. And at 6.6, maybe you have less of a requirement in terms of DKP, but I don't think I need to create reasons to pitch against my squad. Bat-wise, I think the Yankees are going to be loaded with righties, something to watch. Giovanni Urshela went down late yesterday. I think he hurt his knee. I think they said they were going to get MRIs on it. If he can't go, you'll probably see Tyler Wade maybe in that lineup in his spot. And Gio Urshela, definitely one of the better hit for average Yankees, and that would downgrade that lineup a little bit in terms of OBP. But that's really all I got. Aaron Hicks looked like he was limping, but I think he's fine.
Yeah, I expect Hicksy. I don't expect Urshela tonight. We could possibly see them recall Miguel Andujar from the alternate side as well, if any kind of extended absence, but that probably won't be tonight. It'll probably be Wade. Yeah, I love the Yankees' power here, definitely getting to the obvious hitters. And then guys that we talk about from later in the lineup that people tend to overlook. Glaber's one of them, but he's still super cheap, so people are getting there. But he's somebody that people are kind of down on. But yeah, you mentioned Hicks. I still believe in that bat from both sides of the plate. Guy who just knows how to put the bat on the ball. Pretty discerning hitter. Sanchez struggles to make contact, but when he does, the ball travels. Clint Frazier, we saw just go deep last night and has a decent bat with a lot of speed. 2,200 on Fanduel. He makes a heck of a lot of sense to me as a wraparound. On the other side of this one, if we get Juan Soto back, that lineup becomes more interesting to me, like you said. But it's all about that top half, right? We're talking about 1 through 5, Turner, Soto, Zimmerman, Bell, and Schwarber. Beyond that, I don't really love getting to it. There are pieces you can build in, like Victor Robles has speed, the ability to go deep. But I just think it's not really a go-to spot for me. Similar with you on the pitching side of things. I don't know how much of either side of this one I would get to. Struggling Pat Corbin, yeah, it's glad we didn't end up with that Corbin and Paxton pairing for if the Yanks wanted to do that free agency.
Yeah, in Cashman we trust. Giancarlo Stanton, the hottest hitter on the planet. Aaron Judge is not. If I was a skipper, I'd be looking to get Judgy a day off, but I don't know if he can manage that today. If there's, I guess he could use Brett Gardner, but that really ain't the matchup for it. But Stanton, I'm sure you've been watching. Stanton is he's on fire, and we do love Stanton against lefties.
Yep, absolutely. And hitting the ball hard, everything hard. He's as of the other day, it was 5 of 6. I'm sure it's probably like 8 of the 10 hardest hit balls in baseball at this point, just given the way he's rolling. But we got to move on. We can't spend all day talking about our Yanks, unfortunately. So we've got the Reds with Wade Miley on the hill coming into Cleveland. Indians have Zach Plesac going. We've got a 3.67 implied total for the Reds, 4.40 for the favored Indians. What are you seeing here, Gunn? Either of these pitchers interest you at all? Any love for Zach Plesac? I know probably not Miley so much.
No, I mean, it's another, like you said, this slate just seems to feature a bunch of day three type of guys, bunch of four Sierra XFIP type of guys. Miley's one of those guys who's getting a little bit luckier in terms of his advanced metrics, just a 2.67 ERA, but the Sierra's over 4. So, I mean, the Indians have been really, really bad this year against lefties, really kind of overall, but their metrics, if you I use a rolling 2-year period, like there are some bats in this lineup that have a DNA of hitting lefties. Jordan LaFleur, Jose Ramirez, Franmil Reyes, and Reyes kind of sticks out to me the most because Wade Miley is going to be more of a contact pitcher, and Reyes is a extreme power bat against lefties. If you can neutralize that strikeout rate, he's at 26.4% over the course of the last 2 years against lefties. So I do like him quite a bit. I always feel like the Indians never really give us a strong value rating in terms of the DraftKings prices. Like Jose Ramirez is 5.6K on this Friday night with all but 2 teams featured. 5.6K. I mean, that's your stud money. That's like you put 5.6K on a guy, you're probably wanting, home run fantasy points. So it's a large investment, but some of the supplementary guys like Franmil, Jordan Luplow, guys like that, I can get to. I probably don't land on a full stack here. 4.4 implied run total. On the red side, this is a team I do prefer more at Great American Ballpark, but I can easily justify a couple of these bats here. Zach Plesac so far against lefties this season, a 4.71 xFIP, has not allowed a homer yet. And I think that's a product of his 23.4% hard contact rate and near 47% ground ball rate. So even though he's not somebody that's standing out as a perhaps fantasy upside pitcher, he does neutralize power, and power is what we're seeking out here, especially on this big slate. I mean, this, how Friday nights get with 14 teams, or 14 games. It's gonna be one of those nights where there's probably gonna be a couple double dongs, and you really want to maximize the upside. So I don't know that neither one of these teams stick out to me. I do have it with some potential rain as well. So I think that'll also be kind of a unspoken theme of a lot of these games today. But I think if it does play, this is going to be more of a one-offs type of game for me for the hitters. And I don't think I get to the pitchers.
Gotcha. Yeah, this is that's interesting. This is a spot that initially I was saying, maybe that's a spot that makes sense to attack with a stack. I really like getting to the Reds where I can, even when they're on the road. I think they're a good team. They're leading the league so far this year with a 2.02 ISO against right-handed pitching. 114 WRC plus is excellent. Second in the league with 36 homers against righties so far this year. Guys like Jesse Winker have been just absolutely tattooing the ball. There's a lot to like in this offense, but going up against Plesac kind of took the top off of it for me. You mentioned the hard contact numbers, the ground ball rate. So it's cutting into the Reds' overall power metrics for me. I'll get to it, but it might be in shorter stacks. It might be more 3-man stacks, might be some one-offs here for me. But yeah, like you said, it's a little bit more difficult than I thought it would be getting to any of these Reds bats. Are you getting to any shares of Plesac on the hill here? He's got 17.9% strikeout rate. He was at 27.7 last year, 18.5 the year before that, and 3 times the sample. I think he's more the league average type strikeout guy than he is the 27.7% guy that we saw last year. What's your read on Zach Plesac? Is that a pitcher that any love for?
Yeah, I mean, so far this year is at 16%. So we've almost topped last year in half. I will say his home run per 9 to righties over 2, but a 30% fly ball and a 26% hard contact feels like he's getting pretty unlucky. I would assume his home run to fly ball percentage is a little bit high. But I guess, I mean, there has been homers to righties here. So maybe Castellanos, Suarez, somebody like that. Like the Reds are definitely not a team that I wouldn't have any of. And Winker's just a really good hitter. But I don't think Plesac is, I don't want to gamble on him getting back to last year. He definitely has taken a step backward, and I don't think an 8-4 can I get to 20, not against the Reds. Like if this was a Tigers lineup, I'd maybe gamble on him, going back towards last year, but the Reds do kind of scare me. With that said, on this Reds lineup, I got just Winker and Mike Moustakas at under 20% K rate. Everyone else is almost 1-4, 1-5. So maybe there is sneakier strikeout potential than I'm giving it credit for, but I don't get the warm and fuzzies on Plesac.
Yeah, I'm with you. I think that's one maybe we keep in our pocket for a better matchup. Think down the road sometime where nobody's really eyeballing him. That might be a better spot. I think this is even on a day where we've got a bunch of 3s and 4s. I think we could probably do a little bit better. So let's take a look at the next one. We've got the Diamondbacks going with Zach Gallen on the hill. Diamondbacks 3.34 implied total, taking on the Mets in Queens. Mets have rookie David Peterson going. Mets are favored 3.73 implied total. Vegas not seeing a lot of offense in this one. Only a 7-run total on the board in the entire game. What are you seeing here, Gunn? Is there any reason to disagree with Vegas? You seeing this as a good spot for pitching? What are we looking at?
Yeah, I think the pitching definitely stands out in this one. Finally, I didn't want every game to be like, I don't like this pitcher. I think both pitchers here definitely have a case. We'll start with the Zach Gallen side. So far this year, picking up where we left off last year in terms of swing and strike rate, just a hair under 12%. The Sierra and xFIP under 4. I got 20 innings so far. It's kind of where he was last year. And then to have a sub-4 Sierra xFIP on this slate with a swing and strike rate nearly 12%, I could definitely invest in that. Mets offense really has not been overbearing. They have an implied run total under 4. So yeah, I got plenty of reason to get behind some Zach Gallen here, and then running it back with David Peterson. I want to double check what Peterson has been doing in terms of pitch count. It looks like 88, 92. So he's mostly stretched out for this price point, 7.9K. I do think that maybe you get a poor man's Woodruff Wheeler type situation where I play both guys from this game and a lot of the overlap in the same lineup, and they just go at it and we scoop the win. Hopefully, Peterson has been a little bit more on the unlucky side. His ERA sitting at nearly 4.81, with a Sierra and xFIP 3.23 and 2.85 xFIP wise, and that's amongst the best on the slate at 12.8% swing strike rate with 24 innings. So 24 innings, still not a lot, but for the context of this season, as we get into the 20s and 30s, that's about the most you're going to get from your average starting pitcher. So, I like David Peterson quite a bit. I think at 7,900 on DraftKings, it does give me an avenue to get to 30. My pushback on Peterson would be that this D-backs lineup does project as a low strikeout team against lefties. Tim LaCastro, Christian Walker, David Peralta, Josh Rojas, and Zach Gallen would kind of be my strikeout hunting targets. But if you can get around Asdrubal, Eduardo, Carson Kelly, who's been a really good lefty hitter, catcher, and Nick Ahmed, I think he's got himself a shot at a good game. And I think because of the price, I don't necessarily need a whole team of 25% K-rate guys. So I'm in on both pitchers here. If I want to do some one-offs from bat wise, I think Tim LaCastro is always a chip in the chair. He's the type of guy that will never project well with a bat, but he's the fastest player in MLB. And if he gets on, a walk becomes a double, a lot of stolen base potential, and he can create runs on the bases just with that speed. And then on the Mets side, the FanDuel to DraftKings price discrepancy on Francisco Lindor, 2,700 on FanDuel. They're reacting to his slump so far this season. DraftKings is not at 5K. So maybe you end up with more Lindor on FanDuel than DK tonight.
Yeah, it seems like that'll probably be the case. Although, just look at that ownership projection, though. Francisco Lindor at 2,700. Guys, you're making a mistake if you're only rostering him at 5.4%. The public number on that should be much higher. That is one of the best players in baseball at 2,700. That's absurd. I don't care what he's done so far this year. For me, I'm going to be definitely getting 2 shares of both of these pitchers. I like Peterson. I think he's sneaky good. And you mentioned the sneaky quality under the covers. When people look at the back of the baseball card, might not look as good. The one thing that does concern me, this Arizona lineup so far this year has been smoking left-handed pitching. Only a 20.3% strikeout rate, but more importantly, a 255 ISO. Next highest team in the league is the Cubbies with a 210. So Arizona has been hitting for power like crazy. They've created runs 31% better than average, only at 14 home runs, but they're just hitting a lot of doubles, driving the ball pretty well. So I'd be a little bit concerned there. I might roll a couple hedge stacks back at him, maybe a couple 3-mans. You mentioned LaCastro off the top, maybe grab him. And like an Asdrubal, Christian Walker, Eduardo Escobar. There's not a ton to like. Not a ton to go to, but they've been productive that way. And they're, in that mid-range price, not getting a ton of ownership. So I think they could be a little sneaky as a hedge stack coming back the other way on FanDuel. I don't love the 5,000 prices in the middle of that lineup on DK, though, so it's a little trickier to do it there. And then I'll definitely have some Met stacks coming back the other way against Zach Gallen. I still believe in the crosstown Mets there. Looking at the board here, we've got Shoemaker and the Twins in Detroit taking on Tariq Skubal and the Detroit Tigers. 8.5 total on this game, 4.62 implied total for the Twins. They're favored 3.97 for the Tigers at home. Gun, you Tariq Skubal believer? He's kind of a high-end prospect. Tigers got to find something somewhere. Is this kid part of your pitching plans tonight?
No. I definitely, when he first got called up and I was investigating what he was doing in the minors, like he looked really good in the minors. That has not translated to the majors. And I think the thing that's missing most significantly so far this year is the strikeout numbers. His swing and strike rate has dipped sub 10%. It's just 22 innings of sample size. But this is about the same sample size as he had all of last year. So going forward, until the advanced metrics give me a vote of confidence, right now they don't. He's over 6 Sierra and nearly a 7 xFIP. I just got to keep picking on him and this Tigers bullpen. So I'll definitely be lining up to play some Twins here. Same with Shoemaker, man. I want to 6.4K. I want to believe. Man, I don't know. So this was a thought process that got a lot of people in trouble yesterday with Eovaldi, right? The Tigers are bad. They lead the league in strikeouts. We could play average pitchers against them, and that's they got a lot of people on Eovaldi, and the Tigers kind of made you pay. So I'm okay with the thought process maybe putting an average pitcher in a plus matchup to maybe get above average results. I don't know if I want to put up a low average pitcher. Sometimes bad hitting will just be bad pitching. So I 6.4K for Shoemaker against the number one strikeout matchup. Definitely appealing from just that sentence. But when I dig into the metrics, the whip being almost 1.6, the xFIP at 5.34, or excuse xFIP at 5.46, and the Sierra at 5.34. Like I just don't think I want to put myself in that situation. So even though the price seems right, like I think both pitchers are out for me. I'll probably target offenses here. I'm more enamored by the Twins offense. I am disappointed in the injury to Alex Kirilloff. He was just getting going after a week of the slot machine to him. And then I see Byron Buxton might be a little dinged up, so we'll keep an eye on that. But maybe they use him as a DH. But I do like Byron Buxton potentially leading off. He's nearly 6K. Like he's almost at the same price as his pitcher. But I definitely think he could be worth it in this spot, especially against a contact lefty that's just been really, really bad. So likely no pitchers here. I'm definitely here on the Twins offense. It's hard to be on the Tigers offense, but you saw yesterday in Fenway, they did drop a ton of runs. I think the Fenway game combined for like 20 plus runs without a homer. So that's kind of your bugaboos. There's not a lot of power in this lineup. But they can be a little scrappy and ruin a pitcher, at least a pitcher's fantasy upside on a Friday night, like a 10, 15's cute, but that's probably not going to hunt. That dog's probably not going to hunt at the end of the night.
Yeah, it's unlikely that we're going to get that multi-home run game out of this team, that game that you really, really need, even against a pitcher like Shu. I don't necessarily think it's there. They might hang 7 on him with a bunch of doubles or something, but yeah, I don't think we're getting that monster fantasy performance here. Same story for me with Skubal. I agree with you completely, and it's just a spot. I don't like throwing lefty pitchers, particularly young, inexperienced lefty pitchers who are struggling up against this Twins team. Even diminished, they're still very good, and there's still a guy named Nelson Cruz who could hit 4 home runs off this kid tonight. So yeah, don't tangle with lefties with the Twins with unsure lefties. Byron, I've been the same price as Mike Trout or more expensive all week long. Buxton up at the top of that lineup makes a ton of sense, but yeah, definitely paying through the nose to get him. But I get monster home run numbers, very strong projections for the Twins. So yeah, give me some Twins bats there. I'll be on that one. Don't think I've got any love for either of the pitchers. That's through the first part of the games, guys. We've got, as you know, I'm sure you guys have all visited the site. Even if you're not subscribers, you're probably members. You've created a little user ID. Maybe it's time to take that next step. Maybe it's time to check out the subscription packages. We've got plans at all different rates. We've got the $4.95 Express plan. If you're just entry level, just want to get some help, some rankings-based some projections-based rankings, some ownership rankings, get a little guidance in what you should be clicking into your lineups. Check out the Express plan. If you want to get into an individual sport, you're a big baseball fan, we've got individual sport plans, weekly, monthly, annual, every different pricing tier you can imagine. The best bang for your buck, guys, the Platinum plan. $29.95 a week. We also offer it monthly and annually at different rates, but it gets you all of the sports that we cover, every piece of content, every data point, every one of the tools that we talk about on all these shows, the top stacks, the top pitchers for baseball, our lineup builder tool, access to our premium Slack channels where we're all hanging out all day, doing things behind the scenes, the game plan shows behind the scenes, behind the paywall, where you get one-on-one small classroom size settings with Alex, with guys like Steve, with guys like Sean's on, guys like me, for whatever that's worth. We get to do all of that. $29.95 a week on the Platinum plan, guys. Check it out. I guarantee it's going to help your results. Moving on. Told you guys it's going to be short on plugs today. Got the Brewers with Brent Suter on the hill in Miami, taking on the Marlins with the aforementioned Trevor Rogers, our top-ranked pitcher of the day. Only a 6.5 game total in this one. Low total. Marlins are favored slightly. It's a 305 implied total for the Brewers, 3.51 for the Marlins at home. Gunn, are we all about Trevor Rogers in this spot against the strikeout-heavy Brewers?
Yeah, this Brewers lineup is looking rough. I mean, it looks they'll probably have Lorenzo Cain. He didn't play that day game. But they definitely don't have Yelich. He's back on the hurt list. I mean, the Colton Wong, Lorenzo Cain, I got them projected 1 and 2 leadoff wise. That's a 14% K rate and a 16.5% K rate against lefties. And then after that, Shaw 26, Avisel Garcia 23. I got 26 on our, like, it gets really bad. So massive strikeout potential spot for Trevor Rogers, who already has a massive strikeout number, 16.5% swinging strike rate. The Sierra and xFIP pretty sparkling. His ERA is probably a little bit better than a Sierra and xFIP, but this is one of those situations where regression to him is regressing into a good pitcher. But I don't necessarily think I'm calling for regression in a plus park like Miami going against this lineup. This Brewers lineup is hard to look at. So yeah, I'm all about some Rogers here. And I know, like you said, at the beginning of the season, you open up Fanduel and you see 10.4K on Trevor Rogers. Many of us may not know who that is. and today he could be the highest scoring pitcher on a 14-game slate. So I'm on board with that. Sutter, I believe, is just going to be an opener. So there's no reason for me to get to him. Do you know who might be the long man here? Looking at they had a couple of injuries with their pitching staff here, so they might be trying to glue it together. Either way, like I don't necessarily know that I can talk myself into like a Marlins bat stack. Maybe they open the roof or something like that, and it makes things wonky. But with the weather across the board, I don't know that I would believe that the weather would be good enough for them to open. So I'm probably just going to trust the Vegas totals here. 3.6 implied run total on the Marlins, 3 on the Brewers. Give me Rogers, and that's probably it. Because of Sutter likely just being a one-inning guy, like I don't want to over analyze like a Jesus Aguilar I do like against lefties, but I don't know that I'm going to get more than one at bat against Brent Suter. So yeah, bats from the Marlins are more sprinkles than anything.
Yeah, and it's not something that would lead me to the Marlins either. I think he did go a couple times just in the MLB blurb when he opened last year, went like 3 innings a couple times. But yeah, I think it's going to be a limited start regardless, and it's difficult to target or figure out. There's not really a note on who might be coming out. I'm just looking at the bullpen behind him. They do have like Eric Lauers out there, Jordan Zimmerman, so guys who could give you length, former starters. But I'm just not sure, where they would look after the kid. So who really knows? But the Marlins aren't a team that I'm really looking for reasons to get out of my way to get to. So maybe you grab an Adam Duvall. I'll play Adam Duvall at 2,700 on FanDuel against anybody really with his power. 3,900 on DK, a little bit bigger of a price tag, but I think he works. Maybe a couple one-offs there. But yeah, I think this story is all about Trevor Rogers on the hill here. Excellent strikeout rate, 33.8% strikeout rate so far this year, just dealing. So get me some Trevor Rogers shares. And yeah, I don't think I need too many of the bats here. Jumping back over to the board, I think we can move on from this one. We've got the Phillies with Zach Eflin on the hill going into Atlanta with Charlie Morton. 8-run total on the game. Braves favored by a decent amount, 4.47 implied total for the Braves, 3.62 implied total for the Phils. You going to either one of these pitchers? Are you a Charlie Morton believer at this point, Gunn, going up against the decent Philly lineup?
So I do think Morton's been somewhat unlucky so far this season. Swinging strike rate over 11%. I think I could make a case for him just because, like we said, this slate is full of a bunch of 4 Sierras, and Morton's out here rocking like 3.5s on those advanced metrics. 7.7K though. It's not like I need to make him a priority play. And 20-ish fantasy points, maybe. I guess he did drop 26 against the Phillies earlier this year. Maybe that's kind of the ceiling, the 2025. So I probably could make a case for Morton if I see Harper's projected to be in the lineup. I was gonna say if maybe Harper took another day off or something like that, I'd stay away. But the middle of this lineup is gonna be tough to get around. But there is some strikeout, a lot of 1 and 5 strikeouts in this Phillies lineup. Just Didi Gregorius, Gene Segura as guys that strike out in the teens. So there is a case. There's a loose case. I think I'd probably allow the Opto to drop a few Charlie Mortons in the SP2 spot in 150 lineups, maybe cap them at 8%. And, not saying I would get to 8%, but that probably wouldn't want more than that. And Zach Eflin on the other side, I mean, he's been who he should be. His ERA almost in line perfectly with his Sierra xFIP and all those other metrics. I think the Braves are just a team, especially at home, that I probably don't want to pick on. This is a division rivalry game. If you've seen the NL East, every win matters for the NL East. So these games could get a little scrappy earlier in the season versus some of the division rivalries that don't get scrappy till later. So, we might see some hardcore managing going on. So I do like the top of the Braves lineup: Acuna, Freddie, Ozuna, Albies, and even Austin Riley. I can make a case for it, but definitely like the top of the Braves lineup does kind of bottom out. And then on the Philly side, the household names or the household names. So I probably play both sides of the fence when it comes to Morton and the Phillies.
Yeah, and for me, I'll probably be getting to some of these Brave stacks. I'll do the same. I'll let Charlie Morton come in around the edges, and I'll take my 8-10% of them in the full crunch that I do. And if I end up around like 5-6%, that's probably where I'll be, about half the field maybe on FanDuel. And I'll be comfortable with that. I'm willing to throw that much Charlie Morton against these Phillies. I think I'm more excited to throw some of these Braves bats against Eflin. You mentioned he's pitching effectively. He is an effective pitcher. I just don't think he's an extreme upside pitcher, and he's not somebody that I worry about like mowing through a lineup most of the time. 21.7% strikeout this year, 18.3 across 163 innings 2 years ago. He was up at 28.6 in 59 innings last year, but that was an outlier to me. I don't think that's Zach Eflin that we know and love. And these Braves are just excellent hitting right-handed pitching, like I talk about all the time, getting decent power marks on them. They're pricey, but I hope that keeps the ownership down on some of the pieces. You see like Freddie Freeman popping up and Ronald Acuna, but then you get to Marcell Ozuna under 5% owned. You get to Austin Riley under 5%, Dansby Swanson under 5%. So there's some building blocks in that lineup that I like. That's one of the go-tos for me. So I think that's an interesting spot there. Taking a look at the board here, we've got one more on deck before we do another quick little plug. We've got the Mariners I have Chris Flexen on the hill, but I think it was not listed until, so if you've got somebody different, let me know. And they're going into Texas, taking on the Rangers and Mike Foltynewicz, who has done nothing but give up a lot of home runs in recent memory. So 8-run total, 4.43 implied total for the Mariners, 3.65 for the Rangers. You taking a shot on either pitcher? Do you have Flexen going in this one? Let's start there. Actually.
Yeah, I had Flexen, but I had pulled that from the DraftKings player pool. So I don't know if it's like official, but that's who I got. So if you have it, it's Flexen.
Yeah.
It looks like the roof could be open here in Globe Life. Getting some of that Texas 80-degree weather, putting 2 contact pitchers, both these guys under a 10% swing and strike rate. xFIP Sierra's over 4. Probably going to go ahead and remove both pitchers from consideration today. And I'll probably, this is one of those spots where the offenses are ugly, but I might get to them. I swear every night I look up, Mitch Haniger has a homer. Like he's been hitting bombs. So his average might not be great, but I do think he's coming back to big league form. So I'll have some of that. Maybe the Mariners are not a warm and fuzzy full stack, but I think I could full stack the Rangers with a little bit more of a enamored. I would say I would feel more comfortable with 4 Rangers than 4 Mariners. So like Joey Gallo, Nate Lowe, Adolis Garcia, like those are all justifiable names for me. Willie Calhoun, Nick Solak, even. I just think there's 4 power bats from the Rangers I could justify a little bit more. So far this season, Chris Flexen has been giving up a high average to lefties, and hasn't really allowed a ton of power yet, but that may change. But he also has allowed a near 20 or over 27% line drive rate, or excuse me, that's actually to righties last in 2018. So a low line drive rate this year to lefties, low line drive rate to righties. 27 innings, man. I feel like some of these numbers would normalize a little bit more, but it's looking like he's just a high average allowed guy. He's not giving up a ton of power. Maybe I don't want to walk backwards on me liking some of these Ranger power bats, but I guess Flexen, to his credit, isn't allowing a ton of power.
Well, somebody who is allowing a ton of power, who I've talked about targeting all the time, every time he's pitched so far this season, and I think it makes total sense, is Mike Foltynewicz on the other side of this one for the Rangers. I'm pretty happy to throw some Mariners bats at him. I'm getting planet power numbers for the Mariners here, and they're really, outside of Haniger, who you mentioned, and then Kyle Seager, who's getting some attention, they're really not that popular. So I think this is an interesting spot. Folty, I mentioned, has given up, 9 home runs so far in 33 1/3 innings this year. Ouch.
It's not what you want.
That's after giving up 3 3 1/3 innings last year, 23 in 117 innings the year before. He's just super targetable for the long ball. 2.43 home runs per 9 this year, sitting in the 17th percentile average exit velo allowed, 17th percentile barrel rate, 10th percentile hard hit rate, only the 39th percentile strikeout rate, 44th chase rate. This is a targetable pitcher. So give me some Mariners stacks. I don't want any part of either pitcher. I'll take a few shares of Ranger stacks as well. Team I'm a little less excited to get to most of the time. But yeah, I agree. There's a ton of power. And with Willie Calhoun back in the lineup, I still respect his hit tool. I think there's more to like there. And then Adolis Garcia lends a little bit in terms of power upside there. So I think we can get to some Ranger stacks as well, like you said. So I'll be on that one as well, but a little less excited. Something I am excited about, though, Gun, is making bets, right? We can sports bet all around the country now, right? We've got all these different options, all these different sites. It's a little tricky to figure out like where to make my bets, where the best site is. So something I like to do is fire up oddshopper.com. It lays out a nice little dashboard, all the different sports books, every kind of bet that you could possibly want to make, whether it's a player prop, whether it's an over-under, whether it's just straight on the line, anything that you want to bet. We help you shop around for the best price on that bet, the best book to make that bet at. Oddshopper.com. Check it out. Shop your odds around the best way. Stop guessing. Start winning. Oddshopper.com. One of the excellent services from Awesemo. You a big sports bettor, Gun?
So in Texas, we don't really have access to sports betting as convenient.
How is that going to stop a guy like you?
So I mean, there are some DFS sites with prop betting that I'll play on, but I am yearning for the day that I can get on a Fanduel or Draftkings sportsbook and just bet away and know I can get money probably the next day. Yeah, pretty sweet little deal there. Yeah, I've been jumping into some home run prop bets and stuff this year with my home run model a little bit. It's been fun. It's nice being able to just fire it up and not have to worry about anything. But, yeah, check out OddsShopper, guys, if you're into sports betting. It is a killer site. You can see it on the screen there, the dashboard that we lay out with all the different selections for you. Help you find the best spots to make your bet. But we got to hustle. We got to move on. Looks like 6 games left. Blue Jays coming into Houston with Ross Stripling on the hill, taking on Jose Urquidy. We've got a 9-run total, one of the highest totals on the board, actually tied for the highest total on the board. The Astros are favored with a 4.88 implied total, 4.22 for the visiting Blue Jays. I like both these offenses. Urquidy's an interesting enough pitcher, but I think I have more respect for the Blue Jays offense here. You gonna have a chance to talk me into either pitcher here, or are you more into the bats? No, I don't think these pitchers. It's more the bats. I'll say I ate some crow yesterday in the Blue Jays. I was like, in Oakland, on the road, the Blue Jays are bottom 5 in WRC plus, but at home they're 1. So maybe they're a home split type of team. And then they go out there yesterday and pop off. So yeah, we might run it back. Both teams are coming off a little bit of travel. Astros are going to be coming from the Bronx. Blue Jays coming from Oakland. I think both of them are going to flip a time zone here. Astros gain an hour, Blue Jays lose one. But because it was the Astros played early yesterday, because of that, it's not overly impactful to the situation today. But with a travel day, maybe a lineup looks a little bit different just to get somebody off their feet. But yeah, I don't think I'm going to sign up for either pitcher here. I think this Astros lineup, for what it's worth, yesterday, your Don Alvarez hit a pair of bombs off of Garrett Cole. I mean, that's those are not cheap homers. I do like the Astros bats, and I want to buy into the Blue Jays bats, but I think it's really just a couple guys that are doing it for me. Yesterday, Grichuk was a big part of the stack, but he's hit or miss based on his strikeout propensity. I think the Marcus Semien, Bo Bichette, Vladdy's types, but I think the Astros stack does kind of look appealing. DraftKings put them right on the edge of comfort price wise. They're like all 4,800. So they're not 5K super breaking the bank, but they're not cheap either. And they just might be in that no man's land. But I think they're very viable against Ross Stripling, especially the righties. Stripling has really allowed a lot of power to righties over the course of the last since the beginning of last year, over a 2 home run per 9. Two righties to both, and then this year, last year, he allowed over 2 home run per 9 to lefties. So maybe his lefty luck this year is a product of low sample size with just 12 innings pitched. So I can definitely line up and roster really all these Astros. They're trying to look as healthy as they've been all year.
Yeah, and top to bottom, that's a pretty good lineup. You could talk me out of Miles Straw, except for his speed. I do like getting to that if nobody else is going to be on it. I'll take some shares of that. Martin Maldonado catching, maybe, all right, I don't need to go there because I'm not playing on DK. But 1 through 7, I'll definitely take shares out of this Astros lineup. They're a little tricky on DraftKings. Like you said, that's really creative pricing with nobody with only Carlos Correa over 5, but all these guys in that mid 4s to high 4s range. It makes it tricky to put a bunch of them together because you don't get that high 3s guy that gives you a little bit of value unless you're dipping down way down there. Kyle Tucker's interesting from that spot at 3,100, but I really like the prices on Fanduel. I don't think they're priced up enough on Fanduel. They're getting a lot of attention for it, but once you get to Yuli Gurriel, Carlos Correa, Kyle Tucker under 10%, I think we can still put this together in unique combinations. And yeah, I'm getting killer power numbers going up against Ross Stripling here. So definitely like it. Same for me on the pitcher side, probably not getting to either one. Urquidy, 24% strikeout rate 2 years ago in 41 innings, but has been under 20 and decently under 20 last year in 29 innings, 19.4% so far in 34 innings this year. So just not seeing it for him going up against the Blue Jays lineup that I do like. Moving on to the next spot on the board, we've got the White Sox with Carlos Rodone on the hill going into Kansas City, taking on ground ball specialist Brad Keller. Maybe take the top off of that White Sox offense a little bit. 8-run total in this one. We've got a 4.42 for the White Sox and a 3.66 for the Royals. Home dogs with Chicago coming into town. Do we prefer the White Sox bats, or do we prefer the Brad Keller side, or more likely, do we prefer the Carlos Rodone side taking on the Royals bats?
Yeah, Carlos Rodone is pitching out of his mind right now, and it's kind of like the Erod, right? Where historically we've known he's had the strikeout potential, but there's been walk issues or just not a consistent string of games. So far this year, it's been consistent. However, it's just 3 games, and it's 2 games against Cleveland and a game against Seattle. So I like maybe the quality of opponent. We talk about strength of schedule in like football. Maybe the strength of schedule shakes things up going forward. But I do think there's still at least a DNA of a high strikeout guy. I just don't know if he's going to be this pristine going forward long term. And 11-2 and 10K on DraftKings, it's really, really difficult to trust that he's going to be as good as he has been. But I don't see myself having none of it. I just think, and I also feel like on a slate this big, looking at the ownership projections, I don't see him at the top of owned pitchers. So like I feel like I'm compelled to have exposure to Carlos Rodon. But I don't even think I need to go crazy with the ownership there. I don't even see him at the top of that. I see him at, we got less. Are you seeing less than 1%?
Yeah, very, very low owned on both sites. I'm just looking at him in the top starters tool. He's a few pegs down the list in terms of probability of success, but it's not like a gigantic delta between him and the top of the board. And we've talked about there's kind of a mixed bag of pitchers. So if we're getting a guy like Carlos Rodone with a at least reasonable probability of success that compares somewhat favorably to the top and nobody on him at all, as compared to like somebody who's just got, a percentage point more in Zach Gallen probability of success, but like a 5% ownership tag, I'll take the guy with the same amount of success, pay up for him and nobody on him in, not a totally threatening matchup here against Kansas City. I think that's a frisky lineup, but I don't think it's so scary, so fearsome that we got to run away from Carlos Rodon here. The thing that concerns me about Rodon, you mentioned he struggled with control and command throughout his career. He was a super high pedigree kid coming up, somebody that we're really excited about, big time strikeout pedigree, but then, walked the world for a while. This year, just taking a look at the numbers, his called strikes are actually down. His called strikes were at 19.5% last year, back down to 15.7 this year, which is around where he was a couple years ago. The swinging strikes are way up. So that to me just indicates that the guy who's been working off the plate a little bit more, inducing some of those swinging strikes with his breaking stuff. But if the book catches up on him pretty quickly, guys might start laying off that. We could see those start crashing back to earth real quick, see some of those strikeouts turn into walks pretty quickly. So I'd be a little bit concerned there in the long term, but I think until we see it, we can continue going to it. Does that make sense?
Yeah, and if he's going to be single-digit owned, which is looking like the early projection on him, I gotta have it. Like even if I call for regression, like that's probably the opportunity is a little bit too good for a guy with his swing and miss stuff to not see myself project him. Like he'll have a range of outcomes where he's a top 3, top 4 pitcher on the slate, and it's single-digit ownership. I gotta invest in that.
Yeah, if we're looking for leverage-based pitching upside, that's probably the best spot on the board, just given his talent, given his upside for strikeouts, and just the total lack of ownership. So keep an eye on it, guys out there. If that ownership mark comes up, it equals or surpasses his probability of success, becomes a little bit less shiny of a play. But yeah, right now that one kind of stands out to me. I'll probably be writing about it later on. We've got to hustle on through a couple more of these games. Anything for the bats in this one before we move on? You liking any White Sox stacks here going the other way against Keller, who does pretty well with keeping the ball in the yard most of the time?
Yeah, so against a contact pitcher, even though it hasn't been the case this year, I like some of these hit for average guys. So Tim Anderson, he's nearly 6K on DK, but he's a perennial, batting leader. So if he gets on 2 or 3 times, he has some speed. He's probably the guy that sticks out the most. The White Sox are pretty banged up, but I will have some White Sox stacks.
Yeah, some tough missing pieces from that White Sox lineup, unfortunately. Moving on, we've got the Rockies with Austin Gomber on the hill coming into St. Louis. The Cards have Jack Flaherty going. 7-run total in this one, low total. The Rockies have a 2.9 implied total. The Cards favored with a 4.18. Sounds like Vegas thinks this one's all about Jack Flash and maybe some of those Cards bats. You agreeing with that, Gun?
Yeah. Yeah, I like the top of this Cardinals lineup projects well against lefties, and then the bottom half doesn't. So I can see where Vegas is setting this line at. We're going to see Gomber against Arenado potentially, and they were part of that trade in the offseason. So we get to tweet out who won the trade based on the first at-bat. Gomber's X-Trip Sierra, I probably don't play him. Jack Flaherty, I think, is very viable. Rockies are a team we like to pick on this year with pitchers, especially upper echelon potential pitchers. And I think Jack Flaherty could fit that bill. His swing and strike rate is just 11.1%, just 11.1%. I do think that has opportunity to go forward and get closer to that 13% that he's averaged the last 3 years. On the Rocky side, you get around Trevor Story, guys like that, but those guys are still high K rate guys anyway. I got just Blackman and Raimel Tapia as sub 20% K rates against righties. So I think it's a really good spot for Flaherty, but I think the ownership will reflect that as well. It's not like some secret, but give me some Flaherty. And then I want the term card stack comes to mind just looking at the top 4, but that's it. Like I just want the top Edmund, Carlson, Goldie, and Arenado. The bottom half gets a little bit rough. I mean, maybe chipping a chair, Harrison Bader, somebody like that. So maybe the Cardinals are a stack that I run, but it's a much more concentrated stack where where I remove 3 players and then hate myself when Kisner hits a grand slam.
Yeah, Tyler O'Neill goes deep a couple times. Yeah, I hear you. That's it's a stack I like as well, but yeah, I'm probably with you. Limited shares of those guys down toward the bottom there. And Gomber is a guy who historically is limited power reasonably well. So it's a tricky spot, taking a little bit of the top off my home run model here. Moving on now, we've got another couple of games to cover here, guys. Let's talk about real quick the Awesemo Hall of Fame. You guys have probably seen it, heard about it, heard us talk about all the different names. If you win a contest with more than 5,000 people or come in the top 3 and you've got our Awesemo logo as your badge on any one of the major sites, tweet it at Awesemo, HOF, Awesemo Hall of Fame. We'll retweet it. We'll get you a little screenshot. We'll get you a little shout out, not on this show because I don't have the list. But more importantly, you can win a free month of Platinum. So take those steps, tweet it at us, and then email support@awesemo.com. That'll probably come to me. I'll set you up with your promo code. You'll be good to go. Awesemo Hall of Fame. We love seeing people killing it with the tools and content. And I'm doing like 5 or 6 of these a day. People are winning like crazy. Stop guessing. Start winning. Awesemo Hall of Fame. Dodgers with Julio Urias taking on the Angels. LA against LA. Griff Canning going for the Angels. 8.5 run total. The Dodgers favored 4.76 implied total for the Dodgers. 3.83 for the Angels. We like either pitcher in this one, Gun.
Man, magically, I want to make a case for both pitchers, but matchup-wise, I probably don't walk to the ends of the earth to play Urias. And then Griffin Canning, same thing. I mean, I guess the Dodgers have been a little bit slower, and Canning's been more unlucky than anything, but I probably I guess that I don't know. How do you feel? Dodgers have been really stagnant lately. Maybe they really need Cody Bellinger. But when I look at Canning's numbers, almost an 18% swinging strike rate with an xFIP under 3.5. Like almost any pitcher on the slate, I'd probably gamble on that, especially when you parlay with the fact that it's 7,500. But then it's the Dodgers. It's such an uncomfortable click.
That's it. Yeah, exactly. It's not a team that you ever want to really be rostering a pitcher, especially not one of these. You know, if it was a premier ace type pitcher, then all right, sure, give me Garrett Cole in this spot. I'll at least somewhat comfortably do it. Griff Canning is not Garrett Cole, but I love the 6,500. And on a big slate like this, I think there are reasons to maybe go to that where you're going to just benefit tremendously, get to really different constructions when nobody's on him. It is a total dangerous dice roll of the spot going up against this Dodgers team. But I think there's an argument to be made for it, particularly if you're spending your money the right way. I think I would also head with some Dodgers stacks coming back the other way if I'm to do that. And probably similar story with some of these Angels and some of their right-handers taking on Urias the other way if I'm going to roll any Urias. But I do get a better projection on Canning than I get on the other side. So, yeah, it would probably be that for me if I'm taking a pitcher out of this game. Any love for the Angels stack going up against with some of the obvious bats in this one?
Nah, against Urias, I mean, he's just really good. Ohtani, Trout are really great. So they pretty much be matchup proof, but the rest of his lineup is kind of uninspiring against a plus pitcher, especially a plus lefty. It's probably just some Trout Ohtani shares. You know, Fletcher's a good hit for average guy, but doesn't really give you that pop needed for tournament takedowns on a Friday night. Upting maybe gets into one, but I mean, this is a lineup that I'm not really running to.
Yep, and if you guys out there missed it, they said goodbye to Hall of Famer Albert Pujols, who I suspect will be a Yankee in the next couple of weeks. Just seems like one of those signings for me. Seems like one of those Cecil Fielder, Darryl Strawberry, Chili Davis, that bring in the old school veteran, help him chase a title. I like it. If he was left-handed, he'd already be on a plane to the Bronx, and you know it.
No, I think he signs it like a farewell tour with the Cardinals. I don't think Cashman's going to bring in Albert Pujols, man.
Yeah, but I mean, we kind of need the DH though. That would be tricky if you're putting him in.
We got Stan as the DH, and Luke Voigt's here next week to play first base.
Voigt, I'd almost rather have Albert Pujols.
What?
I'm kidding. I just don't like Luke Voigt because he chased our lefty Greg Bird out of town. But yeah, he's been hitting phenomenally since he got here. But we can't talk about the Yanks. We got to move on. We're already overtime. We've got the Tampa Bay Rays with Rich Hill coming into Oakland with Sean Manaea on the mound. 7.5 run total in this one. 3.60 for the Rays. 3.98 for the Athletics. You'd liking either one of these lefties?
Yeah, I think Manaea has a case here. Under 4 on the Sierra XFIP side of things, 12% on the swing strike rate. It's been a couple of games this year where I've kind of doubted Sean Manaea, and then I look up and he's put together a solid game. 21, 34, 24 in a 3-game stretch before the Baltimore collapse. So I think that is a solid range of outcomes. If he flirts with mid-20s, I think he's got a case to be in some of the top lineups. Going to get a more positive park spot, and the Rays do offer a lot of strikeouts, particularly to left-handed pitchers so far this year. So I can get behind some Manaea. He might be a stronger Fanduel play if he can get through 6 innings and hold a win. Rich Hill probably going to be a no for me, dog. And then bats, I'm probably just cherry picking bats here. I don't see myself full stacking.
Yeah, I would take a couple shares of Rays bats, a couple shares of A's, but yeah, most likely going to be in the one-off form. I don't love the price, 9,200 for Manaea on DK. I think you can maybe do better than that. I think he's a lot more in play at 8,000 on the FanDuel slate. Agree with you on Rich Hill. Don't think there's much to be seen there. We talked bats there, so I think we can just jump into this last one. Got a big pitcher on the mound to talk about. You mentioned him off the top, and we finally wind around to it. We've got Blake Snell going for the Pods, taking on the Giants in San Francisco. Anthony DeSclafani on the hill. Only a 7-run total from Vegas in this one. 3.78 for the Pods, 3.29 for the Giants. Talk to me about Blake Snell.
So for FanDuel players, Blake Snell has not gone 6 innings yet this year. And FanDuel, we really like the quality start and potentially the win. So at 9K, it's kind of teetering on the comfort levels here. And then DeSclafani, he's been a kind of a surprise coming off a really big game. It is a plus pitcher spot out there in Oracle. So maybe surprises people again at a cheap price. I'm not expecting a lot of strikeouts out of DeSclafani. That 26% K rate to lefties is an incredible jump, like an 11% jump versus what he was doing last year. So I maybe have to dig into the pitch mix a little bit more. And he also dropped almost 8% on walk rate to lefties. So whatever he's doing against lefties, he should keep doing it, because this is potentially revitalizing his career. Stack wise, I think the Padres are still one of the most aggressive base running teams out there. So maybe if you get them on base, they still some bags, Machado, Tatis, Grisham, and they still have some power. So I think because of that, like nugget, I could see myself with 4 or 5% of some Padre bats. I normally like to Cinderella stack the Giants against lefties. Fun names: Slater, Ruff, Posey, Longo, Wilmer Flores. Like, those are strong names against lefties. But I give Blake Snell some respect here. And then this Padres bullpen has been pretty strong. So I probably just stick to the one-offing on the Giants side.
Yeah, probably not a major spot for me stacks wise. There is the argument to be made, I guess, that like you said, Snell knockout through 6 has a little bit of a potential to lead into the bullpen, but their bullpen is pretty decent. He's going to be owned around 30% of the time. So if you wanted to argue it from that perspective, throw a couple bats at a highly owned pitcher. I don't totally hate it when nobody's on this team, but yeah, they're not popping out. There's no real baseball argument that I could make for doing it. It would be more just taking a shot at that heavily owned pitcher. If you're taking a look at DeSclafani versus Canning, you need one pitcher, 6,500 Canning going up against the Dodgers, or DeSclafani for 69 going up against the Padres. One spot, one pitcher on FanDuel. Which one's your preference?
Probably, I know the chat's gonna love this. Probably DeSclafani for the park. There's this narrative going around that Oracle's a hitter's park. That's not true. It's not the number one pitcher's park, but it's still a pitcher's park. So I probably DeSclafani just because of the park, but Canning gives me more strikeout potential. But I think I think DeSclafani has a stronger chance to not get blown up.
Yeah, exactly. I think DeSclafani is probably the safer pick if we're going to be safe with either of those two pitchers, which we're not. Those are dart throw type plays. Anything left in this one to touch on? I think we covered it all. We've got a few lefties. You mentioned DeSclafani against lefties. We've got a few key lefties with Hosmer, Cronenworth, and Grisham in that lineup, but I don't think it's anything to really sweat with the Pods. Anything we didn't touch on there? I think we got it.
No, I think we pretty much hit all the talking points there.
Awesome, man. You got a home run pick lined up yet?
I'll go to the bomb detector. Top of the bomb detector. We got Mitch Garver.
Ooh,
That's a fun. I guess all the Twins are up here, so there's probably a broken sample size on the other pitcher. Non-broken sample size, I got Devers. So we'll go with Devers.
All right. I'm not sure what mine's going to be yet. I've always put mine in my article every day. So this won't be my official one, guys, but I'm going to throw one out from the top of the board. From the top of the board, Mitch Haniger in that spot against Fulte, I think, is a pretty killer spot. We mentioned he's been tattooing the ball, getting a lot of the Mariners up top right now. So that might end up my official pick, but that's one I'll give for the show. And with that, guys, check out all the content we've got at the site. We're covering all sports through the entire day. You guys know we've got a ton of shows coming up. We've got articles all day long. We've got coming up at 2 o'clock the NHL strategy show with Jake. I'm on at 3 for the subscriber behind the paywall daily game plan show. We've also got the deeper dive for MLB, so I might move the game plan back and do it as a live before lock for MLB if you're behind the paywall around 5. We'll see. We've got the MLB deeper dive with Aiton and Alex coming up at 3. We've got the NBA tip-off show, deeper dive and live before lock combo coming up with Kayla Spags, Ben Laffey, Adam, Greg, and Eric all across those shows. And then 8 o'clock, we've got the NASCAR strategy show with Jason Floyd and Phil. Going to be a good day, loaded up with sports. Stop guessing, start winning, subscribe, hit the like button, hit the subscribe so you get our notifications. Gun, this was a heck of a lot of fun, man. 14 games flew by. I appreciate it. Take us out of here.
Oh, were you throwing to me for a sign off?
Oh,
I was just waving.
I was doing the technical behind the scenes, but if we're still on, guys, we really appreciate you hanging out with us. It's been a fun time. We're winding down the show now, so Chris, take us out of here. We appreciate it, everybody.